All right, we're going to work on JIT 5, which is operations with real numbers. I want to make certain that I'm very clear that there's a couple of things you've got to be aware of. First of all, that the rules for addition and subtraction are going to be very different from the rules of multiplication and division. And if you mix them up, you are going to mess yourself up quite badly. So I want to make certain that folks are aware of that. I'm actually going to do this in 2 separate videos so that we can at least mentally, hopefully, keep these 2 separate and make it so that it's very, very clear when you should be using which rules, okay? So for addition, we're going to have this song to the tune of Row, Row, Row Your Boat. The song says, same signs add and keep, different signs subtract. Keep the sign of the larger absolute value and then you'll be exact. Now there are other versions of this that says the larger number. That is incorrect. You want the absolute value of it, not just the number. All right, so when the signs of the numbers are the same, you're going to keep the sign and add the values together, the absolute values of those numbers together. So in the first example, I have 4 plus 7. Both of those are positive, so our answer has to be positive. We already know that. We don't have to worry about sign anymore. I'm going to add those 2 together. I'm going to have a 4 plus 7, and that's going to give me an 11. The value of the absolute value of 4 is 4, and the absolute value of 7 is 7. So I add those 2 together. I get 11. My answer has to be a positive 11. For my next example, I have negative 12. And I'm adding a negative 5. So both the negative 12 and negative 5, they're both negative. So the answer between adding these 2 together, and remember we're adding here, the result of adding these 2 together is going to give me a negative number. Now I'm going to take that absolute value of negative 12 and get a 12. And I'm going to have that absolute value of 5. And that's going to give me a 5. So I'm going to have 12 plus 5 is going to give me 17, and I already know that my sign is going to be negative, so my answer has to be negative 17. All right, I normally like to put my sign down first, so I already know what it's going to be, and then I just deal with the actual, am I adding or am I subtracting them? That's pretty straightforward. All right, so when the signs of the numbers are different, the sign of the larger absolute value dictates the sign of the answer. And you're going to subtract the smaller absolute value from the larger absolute value without regard to signs. Okay? Once we figured out what sign it's going to be, then we just disregard all of that. We already know, and we're going to go ahead and just do the process. All right? So if I have a negative 4 and a positive 7, my absolute value of the 7 is the greater absolute value. So our answer has to be positive. This is whatever number is the larger absolute value, that is the one that's going to dictate what our result is. So our answer is going to be a positive number. Now, again, I'm going to disregard what's positive, what's negative, whatever. I'm going to take my larger number and I'm going to have subtract my smaller number from it. So I have 7 minus 4 is going to give me 3. So my answer is a positive 3. For my next example here, I have a negative 12 and I'm adding a 5. The absolute value of the negative 12 is greater than the absolute value of 5. So in this case, our answer has to be negative. Okay, there's no other way about it. So you write down the negative and then we're going to figure it out from there. We're going to take our 12 minus 5. So take the bigger absolute value, subtract the smaller value from it, and that's going to give me a 7. So my answer is going to be a negative 7. All right. Now, that's all well and good when we're talking about addition, but what happens when we hit subtraction? Oh no, right? We've kind of memorized this song up here, and now we're being thrown something else. Well, sort of, kind of, not really. This is not too bad. So what we're going to do is keep in mind that the subtraction is the inverse function of addition. When we keep that in mind, we can convert a subtraction problem into an addition problem using a math trick, and it is absolutely a trick. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We are going to take the subtraction sign and change it to an addition sign. And then, and this you have to do, you must change the number of the sign, or the sign of the number following the subtraction sign. So in this case, right here, I have this 12 minus a negative 5. I want to change this subtraction to addition, but then I also have to change this negative 5 to a positive 5. I have to do both, otherwise I will get the wrong answer. All right. So, but now that I know that, now that I've got them sorted out, now I'm back to an addition problem. Now it's really simple. Those are the same sign. I'm going to have a positive number. I add them together. I get 17. So the next one here, we have, I'm going to just point out that this looks like it may need a little clarification on what's actually happening here. I have a negative 4 and I'm subtracting a positive 7. Okay, it looks like this, but we really are saying that we're subtracting that positive 7. So when I go ahead and change that to a positive so I'm adding instead of subtracting, I have to change that positive 7 to a negative 7. And again, this is going to get me the same signs. They're both negative, so my answer has to be negative. And then I have my 7 plus 4 is going to give me 11, and my answer is negative 11. We're done. This is a whole lot easier than what I think a lot of people expect it to be. Here again, I'm going to give another example. We have negative 12 and we're subtracting a negative 4. So here we're going to change the sign on this subtraction. We're going to change that to addition. Okay, and then we have to change the sign on the number immediately following. All right, I'm not talking about three numbers down. I'm not talking about beforehand. I'm talking about right after that subtraction sign. That has to change. So we're going to change it from a negative to a positive. So using those addition rules, now I have a negative 12 and a positive 4. I'm adding them together. Okay, and so now I have to use the addition rules for different signs. Different signs subtract. We're going to keep the sign of the greater absolute value. So my absolute value here is the 12. It's the greater one. So I'm going to have a negative 12, and I'm going to add the 4. My negative is going to dictate that the answer is a negative, and then I'm going to, and let me actually just write that down. So I'm going to have a negative, and then I have 12 minus 4, right? I have 12 minus 4 is going to give me the 8. And this was because of the greater absolute value. So my answer is going to be a negative 8. All right. All right. I want to stop here because I want to make certain I keep a really clear line between addition and subtraction and then the multiplication and division deal.